Stretching from the eastern tips of Oman, over the Arabian Peninsula, across the Nile, and along the northern edge of the Sahara Desert, the Arab world has many facets, but none are quite as grand and awe-inspiring as the towering mountains of the Maghreb, the westernmost region of the Arab world. Several mountain ranges stretch from southern Morocco to the Tunisian capital Tunis, which are grouped under the term the Atlas Mountains. Across these 2,300 kilometers, twice the length of the Alps, northern Africa rises from the Sahara Desert before it plummets again towards the Mediterranean coast, covering many unique landscapes, climates, and ecoregions. In this video, we'll have a closer look into the constituting parts of this massive region, starting our journey in southern Morocco at the foothills of the Atlas's oldest mountains, the Anti-Atlas mountain range. As a disclaimer, some geographers exclude these mountains from the Greater Atlas range due to its different origin story, but for the sake of completeness, we'll have a quick look at it anyways. The Anti-Atlas, also known as the Lesser Atlas, is significantly older than its northern continuation. Around 250 million years ago, when the North America continental shelf was combined with the African landmass as part of Pangaea, the Algerian orogeny has formed a massive mountain range along the intersection, creating what is today known as the Appalachians in North America and the Atlas Mountains of Morocco. The rest of the Atlas Mountains are instead the product of the African plate subducting under the Eurasian landmass, starting around 66 million years ago, putting it into a completely different category. Despite these different backstories, the Anti-Atlas share many of the characteristics of the Greater Atlas Mountains. Surrounded by the Dra River, Morocco's longest river at 1,100 kilometers, these mountains have a respectable size despite hundreds of millions of years of erosion, and the tallest peak, the Jebel Sirura, which is visible from Marrakesh, stands at over 3,300 meters above the sea level. As a dormant volcano, it is the last identifiable volcanic remnant of the orogeny which has stamped these mountains out of the ground. Standing in the rain shadow of the taller High Atlas Mountains to the north, not much precipitation reaches this region, and with an annual precipitation barely reaching 200 millimeters per year, it is classified as a hot arid desert, together with the Sahara Desert that it borders to the south, separated by the Sousse and Dardes rivers to the north, which have carved deep canyons into the sandy rock. The tallest part of the Atlas Mountains rises up on the other side of the canyon walls, bringing us to the High Atlas. Widely regarded as the heart of the Atlas range, this section lies entirely within Morocco as well, piercing through the country in a southeastern-northwestern direction. Hundreds of parallel ridges are lining up across its 100-kilometer width, with the narrowest section in the middle containing not just the highest peak of Morocco, but also the Atlas Mountains, the Maghreb region, and North Africa as a whole. At 4,167 meters above the sea level, this summit allows for spectacular views onto the surrounding ridges and the steppe in the far distance. This elevation makes the High Atlas the best winter sport destination of Africa, with Morocco's largest resort, Ukay Medan, receiving an average of 47 snow days in a winter, rivaling the best resorts of Europe. The snow cover of the High Atlas is typically quite extensive, burying nearly the entire length in a glimmering blanket every year. The barren landscape around the tallest summits of the High Atlas are under strict protection today, with a well-developed national park attracting an ever-increasing number of tourists into the country. Next to hiking and skiing, many of the tourists are flocking in to enjoy the pristine stargazing opportunities, having turned Morocco into an astrophotography hotspot in recent years. To quantify the clarity of the night sky, the American amateur astronomer John Bortle has devised the Bortle scale, which ranks a specific location on Earth by which celestial bodies are visible with the naked eye. The scale ranges from inner-city skies, where only the moon, planets, and a few of the brightest star clusters are visible, all the way to Class 1, where globular clusters and otherwise faint galaxies, like the Triangulum galaxy, are clearly visible with the naked eye. These classifications are largely based on peripheral light pollution from surrounding cities and villages, but as we move into the more rural areas, nuances in the larger geography take over as the defining factors. Mainly humidity and atmospheric particles are diminishing the view here, so a dry climate and high elevation can improve the visibility. The High Atlas Mountains excel in both aspects, leading to a Bortle scale class of 1 and 2 throughout much of the region. While this isn't the most unique, with many very remote locations like the world's oceans also having Class 1, The High Atlas Mountains have the additional advantage that they are relatively easily accessible through various hiking trails, and the proximity to the equator allows for the observation of both northern and parts of the southern hemisphere. The north-south division, with one side facing the Mediterranean climate and the other facing the Saharan Desert, further has a strong impact on the ecoregion distribution, with the northern mountain faces receiving significantly more precipitation than their Saharan counterparts. Ranging from 600 to 1000 millimeters per year, the northern faces can support light vegetation and some cedar and oak trees, while the southern section is closer to a desert climate, with precipitation only ranging from 200 to 400 millimeters per year. Rising along this northern and more precipitous slope, the Moloya River, one of Morocco's most important waterways for hydropower generation, is separating the High Atlas from the Middle Atlas Mountains. The more mellow elevations and the absence of a rain shadow make this region the most fertile stretch and the principal agricultural region of the Moroccan Atlas. Especially apple trees, but also cultivation of olives, citrus fruits, and sugar beets are widespread here. East of the Moroccan High and Middle Atlas, narrow flat plains expand to the border with Algeria, from where two further sections of the Atlas Mountains start to rise. Running parallel to the Mediterranean coast and the Saharan Desert, the Tel Atlas in the north and the Saharan Atlas in the south stretch the full length of northern Algeria, with a massive bowl occupying the lowlands in between them. While the moist north, for North African standards at least, houses most of the Algerian population, the Saharan Atlas is climatically very similar to the name-giving desert to the south. Virtually no precipitation reaches these areas, and the vegetation is barren, with only scattered palm trees and hardy shrubs managing to survive in these sandy soils. This climate does not support permanent waterways, and instead many of the rivers which drain the Saharan Atlas are considered wadis, a term used for temporary streams in the Arabic realm, which only appear during the wet season. Flowing northwards, all streams from these mountains eventually end in the Houtis Plain, an elevated basin at 1,300 meters in the west, which gently slopes down to the east. The plain stretches over 600 kilometers between the two mountain ranges, and the step-like bowl is covered in deep alluvial debris from the many rivers ending their course here. During the wet season, large but shallow lakes form at the lowest part of the bowl, but without any drainage to the sea. Evaporation from the intense sunlight quickly turns these into massive salt flats every year. The two major basins are the Chott Chergui in the center and Chott El Hotna in the east, with these flats spanning a width of 160 and 77 kilometers respectively. These basins stand in stark contrast to the northernly Tel Atlas, which boasts the wettest climate of northern Africa, with some regions in the east receiving as much as 1,000 millimeters per year, which is twice the rainfall experienced in London. The summers, however, quite dry, and long hot months still remind the people that they are quite close to the Saharan Desert. To the east, both Atlas ranges gradually merge into the Auris Mountains, which occupy the easternmost section of the Atlas. Straddling the Algerian-Tunisian border, these natural fortifications have played an incredibly important part in Algeria's history, all the way from antiquity to the last century. The first described inhabitants that permanently settled in the Atlas region are the Berbers, a group of people whose culture and identity formed during the pastoral Neolithic period, when the Sahara Desert was still a humid plain around 10,500 years ago. Throughout all of antiquity, these people had to defend themselves against foreign forces, and the Auris Mountains have been a major retreat during invasions from the Romans, Byzantines, Vandals, and Arabs that spread along the North African coast. Even during modern times, during the time of the Algerian War for Independence from the French occupiers between 1954 and 1962, the Auris Mountains have presented the fortified base for the Algerian resistance movement. Guerrilla warfare tactics have been used in the hard-to-navigate terrain, where local Berbers had the upper hand and the French colonial forces struggled till the end of the war to control this area. Due to this inaccessibility, economic prospects have been hard to pursue in recent decades, which is why the Auris Mountains are falling behind in today's connected world. Across the Maghreb, it is the least developed region today, mostly relying on subsistence agriculture and pastoralism. Surrounding this mountain range are the many gulfs of Tunisia's coastline, with several lakes and reservoirs occupying the valleys in the hinterland of the coast. The largest of these is the Chott El Djerid in the south, which spans 200 by 75 kilometers and occupies a massive shallow basin. Similar to the lakes of the Hout Plains, low precipitation in the summer brings these lakes to near extinction every year, and its endorheic geography, meaning that it has no outflows, have turned it into a hypersaline environment. Lying 17 meters below the sea level, all the water draining from the Andes and Saharan mountains is trapped just a few kilometers before the Mediterranean Sea, and these salt and mineral deposits have stained the landscape with vivid colors. Arriving on the easternmost end of the Atlas Mountains, we're concluding this journey through the incredible North African mountains. From the prehistoric Anti-Atlas, over the snow-covered giants of the High Atlas, along the Mediterranean coast and the Sahara to the Algerian and Tunisian fortification, these mountains are a magnificent example of Mother Nature's architectural abilities, and a reminder of how a little geographical change can transform climates and landscapes. If you want to learn more about the most incredible mountain ranges of this planet, you can check out these videos about the Rocky Mountains or the Caucasus. And if you want to support the work I'm doing on this channel even more, you can now also leave a small donation on my Buy Me a Coffee page with the link in the middle of the screen or the description below. See you in the next one. Cheers.